Love you back. Aloha. What a beautiful day to be here in New Hampshire. You got it going on, sir. It's wonderful to be here to join you for this very important and relevant conversation. I want to say a brief thanks to my friend Omid. Thank you, Omid, for your kind introduction and laying out what we're facing today in the country and the choice that all of you have here as voters, first in the nation. I want to say thanks to Nancy Jacobson for her leadership and continued efforts to be able to solve problems. That's what we're here for, right? Solving problems. Imagine that. What a concept. Unfortunately, it is not what we are seeing happening very often in Washington. But the way that we bring about this change is doing exactly what we are doing here today, coming together as Americans, focusing on how best we can serve the interests of the people of our country and actually solve these long-standing challenges that we have faced. So I want to start our conversation today with Aloha. It's not just because I'm from Hawaii. And contrary to popular belief, aloha does not mean hello or goodbye. It's a word that actually has a much more powerful meaning. There's a reason why when you come to Hawaii, we greet each other with aloha. We start and close conversations with aloha. Because what it really means is I come to you with respect. I come to you with an open heart. I come to you recognizing that we are all brothers and sisters, that we are all children of God, that we are all connected, regardless of where we come from, the color of our skin, how we worship, if we worship, who we love, how we live our lives. All of this is set aside because we recognize each other for who we really are, and therefore then treat each other with respect. Treat each other with respect. This power of aloha is what is the answer to our being able to move forward as fellow Americans, as a country, and to begin to heal these very divisive wounds that we are seeing for too long have been tearing us apart. Now, this aloha spirit is what I brought with me to Congress back in 2012 when I was elected, recognizing the power that it could have, recognizing, yes, I was walking into a partisan Washington facing gridlock, and that this spirit of aloha would have the power to be able to change that. One thing that surprised me and actually was disheartening to me was very quickly after getting to Washington, I was elected as a part of 84 new members of Congress, a group of 84 new members of Congress, 50 Democrats and 34 Republicans from all across the country. And for the first week or two that we were there, we spent a lot of time together, getting to know each other, walking through the bowels of the Capitol in Washington, figuring out where we needed to go and where offices were and all of these things. Until all of a sudden, that changed. Literally, one day, we were told, all right, Democrats, you're going here, Republicans, you're going there. And that is what began the divide. The divide, where we were told, even by leaders from both of our respective parties, that, hey, you don't really want to work with those other guys because you might help them win an election. That even if it's a good idea, let's just wait and maybe reintroduce that bill or that good idea from a fellow Democrat, or my friends in the Republican Party were told a similar thing from the Republican side. Don't vote for a Republican bill, let's actually just wait and vote for the Democratic bill. Seeing already how we were being told we had to choose our sides, to stay with our team. This coming as we were taking our oath of office, swearing to support and defend the Constitution, not taking an oath to a political party, but taking an oath to support and defend our Constitution. This was so disheartening, and as I was going through this and realizing and seeing this, I was thinking about the mandate that my constituents had for me, sending me to Washington to work for them, to solve problems, actually get things done. I started thinking about how I could actually do that. One thing that I was told by someone who'd been around Washington politics for a long time was, look, Tulsi, you are a Democrat freshman, coming into a strong Republican majority, you're coming from a small state, doesn't have a lot of political clout, don't even try to get a bill passed because it's impossible. Don't waste your time doing it. See what you can do. You can, give speeches, you can advocate for your constituents, but don't even try to waste your time getting legislation passed. Sit around and wait until the Democrats are in charge again. Then you can actually get to work. That was unacceptable to me. That was not why I ran for office. That's not why my constituents voted for me. So I started thinking about how can I build relationships? How can I start to get to know my soon-to-be 434 new friends and colleagues? And I chose to begin with the universal language of food. How many of you here speak that language? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So I made a phone call back home, called my mother, who makes the most incredible macadamia nut toffee. And I asked her if she would make 434 boxes of this toffee. Yes, someone's raising a green paddle saying yes. She didn't hesitate. She said, my gosh, I think that's a great idea. Absolutely, I'm all in. I said, I'm not done yet. I have one more favor to ask on top of that. I asked if she would make another 435 larger boxes of toffee for the staff of every member of Congress. Yes. I once served as a staffer for a U.S. senator. And she paused just to say, okay, that might take a little bit longer, but of course, absolutely. So she was back in Hawaii. She was stirring 2 pots on the stove at one time, chopping macadamia nuts, pouring this toffee. My father was the self-appointed quality control officer. He took a slice, not even joking, out of every single pan that she made. And while they were taking care of that, I was in Washington. I just started writing handwritten notes to every one of my new colleagues, introducing myself, and in the process, learning more about them, where they come from, what interests or committees they serve on, and then signing at the bottom of those notes saying, I look forward to serving alongside you. What was incredible was how quickly I got a response. We started delivering these little gifts of Aloha, and almost right away, I saw some of my Republican colleagues making that long walk across the floor from the Republican side to the Democratic side, looking for me, finding me, and just saying, thank you. Then saying, I ate all the toffee and I need to find out how I can get more to take home to my family. And then most importantly, just asking me, what are your constituents in Hawaii concerned about? What are some of the problems that you're seeking to solve? I serve on this committee, or I'm the chairman of that committee. Let's talk and see how we can work together. How we can work together. The power of that simple gesture of reaching out with aloha, with respect, recognizing, yes, colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and that there may be those who I have strong disagreements about a variety of issues, maybe a few, maybe many issues, but if we can establish this foundation of treating each other with respect, seeing each other as fellow Americans, and remembering that mission that we have all been entrusted with, to serve the people of this country. This is what is necessary for us to actually accomplish that mission and get things done. And that's exactly what happened. That even for the first 6 years that I served as a member of Congress, serving as a Democrat in the minority with a Republican majority, I've been able to be effective for my constituents in Hawaii and for our country. We've been able to pass legislation. That guy who told me, don't even worry about passing legislation, well, I passed the very first bill that I introduced into law, the Helping Heroes Fly Act, within my first year in office. A bill that served severely wounded warriors and veterans. And that's how. Because I could make those calls and get them returned. I could have those conversations. It's what enabled me to be able to pass important amendments to big education bills and healthcare bills. Been able to work with Republicans on important issues related to civil liberties and privacy, protecting our Fourth Amendment rights. Being able to work together on issues like criminal justice reform, an issue now where we're seeing growing bipartisan support from all parts of the country, people recognizing that only by working together can we pass such important legislation. And so now as we look forward, especially in this election now, you're hearing a lot from all the different candidates about plans. There's a lot of plans being put forward. I've got my own ideas and my own plans that I'm putting forward on how I seek to solve the challenges we face. But here's the reality. As president, you can't just single-handedly snap your fingers and say, well, my plan will now be law. It's not how this thing works. You've got to be able to work with Congress. We have 3 co-equal branches of government. People sometimes forget that. You've got to be able to reach out and talk. You've got to communicate with leaders in Congress, both Democrats, Republicans, independents. And the very foundation of communication is respect. You really think you're going to be able to work with those who are of a different party if you spend every single day disrespecting them or calling them names? That's not going to happen. We treat each other with respect. We can recognize our vast differences in how we will solve the problems that we face, but we can come together based on the focus that we should all have, that every leader should have, on actually serving the needs of the American people, not serving the needs of one party over another, but actually serving the needs of the American people. And this is the kind of leadership that I seek to bring as your president, actually serving all Americans, bringing that experience that I'm drawing from, that experience that I had serving as a soldier while deployed. All of us coming from different parts of the country, different political backgrounds or affiliations, different races, ethnicities, religions, but not seeing any of that, standing as one. All of us focused on the mission that we have to serve our country and being willing to put our lives on the line to do so. It's that spirit of service and that focus on what unites us as Americans that I'll bring to the presidency, fulfilling what is actually in that oath of office that we take, serving our nation, supporting and defending our Constitution. Within my first week in office as president, I'll call for a meeting with leaders from both political parties in both the House and the Senate to begin to establish this relationship based on respect, much like I did as a member of Congress, and make sure that we hold at least one meeting every month to be able to check in on issues that we are working on, be able to answer questions or try to resolve differences that we have so that we can actually move forward in passing legislation that will serve the best interests of all Americans. I'll bring this same culture of leadership to my cabinet, making sure that those who I appoint are solely focused on serving the interests of the American people, not serving their own selfish interests or lining their pockets or getting a good bullet on their resume, but actually focused on doing the job of the people in this country, taking this oath of office to heart. It is only by coming together, only by treating each other with respect as fellow Americans, not seeing each other as deplorables, not seeing each other as, well, I'm on one team and you're on another team, therefore we must oppose each other, but actually thinking about, what does our Pledge of Allegiance say? This Pledge of Allegiance that many of us have taken countless times throughout our lives, that we are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. United we stand, divided we fall, and we must stand united to actually fulfill that vision of our nation that our founders had for us. A nation that is led by leaders who are truly of the people, by the people, and for the people. For the people. And this is why I'm running for president, to bring these values of service above self to the presidency, to make sure that our White House represents the principles of integrity and honor and respect, and serves as that beacon of light and hope and opportunity for every single American. I'll bring the experience that I have of serving in Congress now for nearly 7 years on the Foreign Affairs Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, understanding very deeply the importance of our national security, as well as bringing the experience that I've had now of serving as a soldier for over 16 years, of deploying twice to the Middle East. Bringing this experience to fulfill the most important responsibility that the President has, is to serve as Commander-in-Chief. Where as Commander-in-Chief, I will end our long-held foreign policy of trying to be the world's police, going and overthrowing dictators and governments around the world that we don't like while propping up those that we do. Work to end this new Cold War and arms race, and instead redirect our taxpayer dollars towards actually serving the needs of our people right here at home. The needs are great, and there are many. We must come together as Americans and work together as we strive towards that more perfect union that serves the interests of the American people and our country, and actually being that force for good in the world that we know we can and should be. Thank you all for being here today. I look forward to our conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congresswoman. We have 3 minutes left, so we have time for a question. First, I have a question from Paul Brock. Paul, can you? Hi there. Paul asks, as a combat veteran, what did you learn that will uniquely inform your approach to American foreign policy and America's role as the most powerful leader of the free world?
Thank you for your question, Paul. I served in a field medical unit in Iraq in 2005. Our camp was about 40 miles north of Baghdad. It was nicknamed, our camp was nicknamed Mortaritaville because of the constant mortars that were coming in on a daily basis. Every single day, I saw the terribly high human cost of war, the consequence of the decision that politicians made in Washington to go in and start that war, lying to the American people about what it was all about, saying that we had to go in and serve the interests of our country. Saddam Hussein was a terrible dictator who was working with Al-Qaeda, and he had weapons of mass destruction. He was going to share them with them, and that this was the greatest threat posed to our country. Like so many people, I believed what our leaders were saying. Being there and seeing directly who was paying the price for their lies and their decisions had a very, very deep impact on me as a person and changed everything. The very first task that I had every day was to go through a list, name by name, of every single American casualty injury that had occurred in the previous 24 hours. I had to go through and see if there were any soldiers from our unit. It was about 3,000 soldiers who were on there. Were they getting the care they needed? Did they need to get evacuated? That experience that was heart-wrenching every day has never left me. I came back from both of my deployments to the Middle East, committed deeply to do all that I could to make sure that no more of our men and women in uniform are needlessly placed into harm's way, sacrificing all, fighting in wars that have nothing to do with our country's national security interests, continuing this foreign policy of being the world's police. This very deeply impacted me and the work that I've done throughout my time in Congress and the change in our foreign policy that I'll bring as president to make sure that this does not continue, that the cost and consequence on our troops and the cost and consequence on you, the American people, with the over $6 trillion that's been taken out of our schools, taken out of our healthcare system, taken out of our infrastructure abilities to continue to pay for these wasteful regime change wars. This has got to end. This does not mean that we turn our backs on the world and that we become isolationists, not at all. The fact that that is often the assumption that's made shows the disturbing place that we're in, that people in Washington think, well, hey, the only way we can engage with other countries in the world is by bombing them or enacting draconian sanctions. No, that is not the case at all. I will lead with a foreign policy that's focused on cooperation rather than conflict, being able to use all of the tools of diplomacy to work out our differences while also recognizing the opportunities that we as a global community have to be able to work towards our shared interests. This is the direction I believe we need to go in the country. It's the best interest of the people of our country, our future, as well as our planet. Thank you.
Congresswoman, thank you for your service, and thank you for joining us today.